Rebecca, your book is fascinating. I look forward to sitting down and plowing through it, even though I'm not
Thank you.
necessarily your reader. In our conversation just now, I was elucidated to the kind of reader that you have, and I really think it's amazing. Uh, your you claim it's a depressing story, but as you're telling it, I don't think so. I think it's a really hopeful story. I think it talks about obstacles and things like that, and I think that's wonderful. But you added magic into this. You added magical realism, the whole Jose Rivera thought process in terms of this, and I think that's great because that's a real reader. This is Dune as opposed to Star Wars. This is deeper thinking, and I think that's wonderful. Tell us about the book. Let's start there. Tell me about the story. Tell me how it came about, these characters, and everything like that.
Okay, I'll start with what germinated this idea.
Oh, please.
And it started based on experiences, personal experiences that I've had as a woman who survives a spousal suicide. And but it while that is what germinated the idea, it's not what the story is about. Because during that process of my experience, I got to meet similar women who have gone through the same thing. And I was fascinated. As a reporter, I was also fascinated by how their stories vary. There's no one story that's alike. And so I culminated those experiences in the story of a main character who is Raine. And the story originally, this was more than 20 years ago when I started this, it began as a journey, a woman's journey into finding herself and understanding why a loved one would take his or her own life. That is the big question that often survivors of spousal or child's a family member, they always ask themselves why. They had everything going for them or something like that. This is so sudden. And so that is the journey of Raine, the main character, throughout the book. Now, what has happened is as I developed it, I came to a point where I said, my God, these are just such heavy topics to deal with. And I didn't want a reader to give up because it just will sink you into that uh that mental hole. And for me, almost the same thing happened because then you start talking about relation. It's almost like therapy in a psychotherapist's couch, and I didn't want that. And so I veered away from it because at that point, instead of just a woman going through a journey of self-discovery, I said, well, let's let her meet someone and give the story some hope. But then the someone should, I really have never been a fantasy reader, but then I stumbled upon a romance reader's novel which had fantasy, and I said like, oh, this is interesting. And so inspired by that, I said, what if I give this male character some magic ability? And when I say that, it isn't a magic that ends up taking over the story. What it is it's just somebody who has some psychic ability and can sense what's about to happen in the future, and that he is guided by three fae, Scottish fae. He's inherited this foresight, and it's a Scottish. There's a Scottish term for it called An Dà Shealladh, and I had it where you get this ability from that has passed through the line in your family. So he gets this. He doesn't really like it. He doesn't know what to do with it, but it's there. And then he realizes, oh, there are three women, and their magic, that's where the magic comes in, who guide him and help him as he tries to find his way, to attract rain. And so that's where, because this guy is, I made him the antithesis of every romance novel, which is dorky, kind of lanky, doesn't have, has strength, has the muscle, but you won't see it because he wears oversized t-shirts and his hair's kind of scraggly and long. So just your typical college young professor who still hangs out with his bro buddies like they're grad students. And so even that language is different from Raine's more sophisticated persona. So
I like
that's,
that a lot. I like that a lot.
yeah,
You're not to compare it necessarily, but you're giving us the same thing that was popular with Twilight, because you would think that the unearthly creature, the magical creature in Twilight would be this suave, debonair thing that we're used to. But no, he's this miserable vampire. And yet the woman, again, she's supposed to, crumble under him, but instead she's the powerful force. So you're empowering your woman. You're giving us, like I mentioned before, you're giving us the real man. You're not
yeah,
handing us this phony Hollywood anything. You're saying this is what you fall in love with. This is what cares about you. And I think that's really excellent.
yeah. And that's where the novel turned into a little bit more of your contemporary romance because it gave it hope. And the fact that the magic is there and it's very subtle. It doesn't overpower, it doesn't overtake the story.
It wouldn't, because from what I'm hearing, this sounds like, pardon the pun, it's real magic. Because you're talking about the Fae. You're not talking about some mystical demon that came from CGI. You're talking about ancient
Yes, yes,
Irish folklore, and you have a little pagan mythology in there, because if it's three women helping
yes.
him, you have your mother, maiden, crone. So you're giving us authentic magic. Uh, Nowadays, we're in the dawning of the age of Aquarius. We're not looking at fancy fakery. We're looking at magic that we can really understand, that can touch us. And you're handing us that as well in a romance, which is great, a realistic romance. Um, Now, if I can ask, coping with suicide. Uh, I'm finding the words. Can you tell us about that part of it? Can you talk about your journey into becoming an author? Because you had a very interesting journey. You were a reporter, you were so many things, and here you are, an author.
Yeah, the my own personal journey really is the same thing. It's reflected in my character Raine as a woman who just did not understand why. And it remains unanswered. And so while for me this is an unanswered issue, it no longer bothers me. It's just a matter of accepting it. And that's I think what I wanted to show was that the journey isn't in trying to find the reason. I mean, the journey was, yes, I want to know why. I want to know why. But if you don't, it's okay too. There's a certain level of acceptance that, and this is in the epilogue, which I titled it Author's Note, because Raine ends up writing the story
Hmm.
of her first husband. So she's writing it in terms of, that's where she reveals, I don't know why. Why would somebody do this? But at the same time, I understand. So she resolves it saying, well, my husband was in such pain, internal pain, that the normal person could never comprehend that kind of pain. And when you experience that, you do get pushed to a sense of desperation. And so in that ending, this is where forgiveness comes in. So she ends up being able to forgive what happened and what her husband has put her through because it's such a brutal, tragic death, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, she, because it ends in hope and it is essentially a happily ever after, Raine is, but the best gift that my husband has given me is he's led me to Ron and has given me the gift of being able to love again, to find love again. So there's that resolution.
When it's interesting you say that there was a line in a fantasy film at some point where someone was talking about someone who has since passed, and they said, well, all his questions have now been answered, meaning wherever he went, okay, that's whatever was plaguing him, he has now found some form of resolution, which we will never know until we get there. Um,
Right.
so it's interesting you're saying this, you're talking about this. Do you think this works also as like a healing? I've always believed we can't heal ourselves. We can't look at our own world. We have to look at characters in a play or in a novel or a movie and follow them, and that creates our own healing, our own resolutions. Um, do you think this could be a healing source for other
Well,
people?
that was my intent. That actually is my intent, is for people who have gone through this journey will find that in their hearts to forgive, regardless of what the reasons are. It like it doesn't matter whether you found the reason or will ever understand. The key to moving forward really and understanding yourself is just being able to forgive. And that really is the message that I wanted to also impart, you know, all within the context of the magic and the romance. And I will tell you, because personally, I have found that second chance. I mean, yesterday, my husband and I celebrated 36 years together.
Wow.
So it is possible. You just you have to go through the journey and then you have to find a way to forgive and then you can move forward.
It's I consider myself spiritual, not religious necessarily, and I think
Hmm.
whatever is up there moving the chess pieces of this world, we don't know the logic. We'll see something catastrophic, we'll see something horrible, whether it's personal or worldwide, and we immediately say, "Oh, it's terrible." But maybe there's such a stronger force behind it. Maybe there is a genuine reason. I always think of Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and
Yeah,
the good that they have
right.
done. But that wouldn't have existed if there weren't drunk drivers who gave such pain to their mothers. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's interesting the thought process we have now. You're talking about forgiveness. How about anger? I remember Joan Rivers when her husband took his own life. She was furious. She even her quote at one point she said, "He left me high and dry." Uh, was there anger? Is there anger at the beginning of this? Is there like, why did you leave me? Sort of thought.
Well, not anger, certainly confusion and not being able to understand. But what really happens is I'm shutting down and even I'm going to pretend like this never happened. Yes, he's dead. Okay, that's fine. Not going to go back there, not going to think about it. I'm going to bottle it all up. And part of that is my own experience with therapy. I was warned that if you don't let it out, you're going to have a meltdown.
Sure.
And so with Raine, that's what happens. I mean, for me personally, I eventually learned how to unpack all that and let the skeletons come out of the closet. But for Raine, she didn't do that. So she has that crisis. And again, because it's magic, uh, I thought, the magic helped her understand that, hey, there's fate involved in this. This is the journey you would have had to travel no matter what your choices have been. And that's where, I that's me and my fairy wand and sprinkling a little bit of magic just to put color and dimension in the story. So it's not just that one-sided, we're all crying until the end. Do you know what I mean? I mean that's the message I wanted to impart. Where yes, you can heal. Here are examples of stages, but at the same time, you have to believe that there is magic. And that I think that's the whole thing about the magic in this book is it isn't just fantasy. It's the fact that it can happen and you just have to believe. There's a scene between Raine and she has a Scottish mother who is also gifted. And the mother says, because Raine says, well, why didn't you tell me this was going to be my future, that I was going to lose my husband? And she said, it's not, the mother says, it's not for me to decide how you're going to go through that journey. You have to figure it out on your own. And she says, well, how can I find out? Maybe be as gifted as you. And she says, most people have that magic in front of them, but they never truly see it because they're too busy in their own world. So you have to open your mind to that possibility. Because the story, here is like she cannot believe that Ron, she and Ron are fated because I said, like, this is such a long shot. Uh, can't deal with that, but you're fated. And so it's right in front of you. And, that doesn't take magic for you to understand that it's right there.
It's interesting the use of names there because they almost go into each other. Rain, Ron, it almost
Mhm.
sounds the same. So of course you're giving us two pieces of the same flame, if you will. Um, I,
That's an interesting point because I didn't even think of it that way. Raine's mother has a Scottish name. It's Raine.
there you go.
Yeah,
I don't think there's such things as accidents. There are no accidents. I think
right.
something subconscious that just morphs through things. I'm really appreciative that you're using magic in this way because if you spoke to someone 100 years ago about something as simple that we use every day, our phones, for instance, they'd look at you like you're crazy. So magic is all around us. We may call it technology now, but at one point it was magic. We may call it medicine now, but at one point it was magic. So why can't we accept that there's magic here and and
Right.
and let it into our lives? And yes, you're right. We're
Exactly.
so busy being real that we just don't get a chance to see this. Uh, the book is out. It's being reviewed. It's on Amazon. What feedback have you got? How are the reviews?
Um, it's been really good. It's 4.7 out of 5 stars. And
Cool.
right now we've got about 89 reviews on Amazon. So that's pretty good. Yeah. And I think, of course, I took all the reviews and I wanted to see recurring themes. And the interesting thing is that the reader did not expect this book to come out the way it has come out. Almost, I would say about a third have said, I did not know what to expect, and it surprised me in a special way. And everybody has says like love the character Ron and his dorkiness, and love that he's the one that has the magic, but it never overpowers the story. Story is not about magic. It just happens to be there that moves the narrative along. So essentially that reader, it's the reader that's open-minded enough to say, oh, I'll give this a try. And we talked about how I structured the novel differently. And the reason for that is, I guess I got tired of reading the same things over and over. Okay, I'm a big romance reader, but I love it when somebody comes up with a startlingly different plot, even though it's so simple. One of my favorite authors is Kathleen Chene. And I don't know if you know her. She writes literary women's fiction. And yet, the one that sold the most was her contemporary romance, and it's become a movie years ago. This was years ago. It's called The Love Letter.
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
I know that. Yes.
But if you read her other books, it does not have that same marketable flavor. It's so much more elevated. It's complicated characters. And in fact, one of her books was almost a take on Candide, which was real. If you know Candide, it's like everything in the end comes out. And that's exactly how the inspiration for trying something different. So this book, somebody who wants to give it a chance, they're going to find that there are as many as 7 character points of views. And the way I had it structured is Raine is in a first person point of view, but because it's limited, so she can't see what other people are thinking. But I didn't want to just ignore that. These characters have their own points of view, but it's in the third person.
Oh, you're applying magic there also, where as much as it's the story of Raine, we're reading the minds of all the other characters.
Right. And because this is still a journey, and a lot of times when you go to therapy, it's a journey into your childhood. There is that timeline shift. So it goes back. In fact, the prologue is about Raine's mother having a vision of what's going to happen to her child. But you're not going to know what is, you're going to see it. It's going to be exciting. Something happens, something sinister happens. But then that's left alone.
Hmm.
And it will not resolve until you get to the very end. And then you can say, oh, that's why this happened. And the way that's set up is the first 3 chapters were in Raine's point of view, first person. And it's a look back on here is what happened when Peter, my husband, took his own life, and why I've run into New Hampshire. So there's that flashback because she's trying to understand, well, what exactly led up to all this? How did all this happen? And then what I did was when I got to the end, I flipped the point of view to Peter. So Peter is giving the reader the answers as to why he felt desperate. So in real life, you don't know, you'll never know. But because I wanted the reader to have some kind of resolution, I put it in Peter's point of view, saying, this is what happened to me. This is what has led me to this point. And so it's almost like a mirror. Things that exactly happened in the beginning, the first 3 chapters, are the exact same things here, but from Peter's point of view, the husband's point of view. And those are why this makes it different. And if you're somebody who's used to chapter 1, chapter 2, and it starts from beginning to end, you're not going to get that here. So you kind of have to keep an open mind about following the story, the timeline, and why there's a lot of back and forth in between, and why some chapters are short and some are long.
I think this is really fabulous because what you're basically doing, you're taking two tropes. One you're following, and one you're breaking. The common romance novel, you've turned on its ear and given us this dose of you know ice water in the face reality, and so you're breaking the mold of this romance by giving it this realism, this magical realism. You're allowing us to go on your customary Harlequin romance, but you're taking
Yeah,
it
exactly.
doctoral level. I think that's
And I wanted that. I wanted to do that because I said, I've got to do something different. I can't. I mean, I realized that that's, the ordinary, easy way out is what's more marketable, but this will challenge a reader.
but
And so,
you are taking the easy way out also, which is amazing. On one level, you are elevating, but you're taking a very accessible idea. The whole notion, and it's making gazillions of dollars, the whole notion of the Marvel superhero is that
mhm,
these are people with problems, with miseries, with something, and they find a superpower in them to battle what's going on. When you're talking about Ron, the hero, it's just Peter Parker, and when the magic hits him, he
mhm.
becomes Spider-Man. So you're giving us these superheroes with super problems. So you're taking this very accessible level and putting it into your characters, and then you're elevating them to this professorial level. I think you're allowing the casual reader to have a really strong challenge, and you're really saying to excuse me, and you're saying to wow, and you're saying to your audience, we're also going to elevate the process. You're going to have obstacles to get there. You're going to start on a very familiar level, but you're going on a journey also with this book. And I think that's excellent. I think that's really clever, and not done, and simply not done. So you're handing us a new paradigm in the romance novel.
Yes, that's what I hope readers could embrace. And those that have, and that's been their feedback, so did not know what to expect and was pleasantly surprised.
And it's funny. You say you had a 4.7.
Yes,
You didn't go for shameless promotion and say, oh yeah, almost 5 stars, and where are no,
that would not be realistic.
that's what I was going to say. You are not.
Yeah.
You're being real. When I hear someone say, "Oh, all 5 star reviews," okay, what are you not telling me? But you're being very honest. It's 4.7. That's an honest review that you're getting. You're getting someone who is so engrossed in it. There may be problems, but they are so engrossed in it, and that's what makes all. You're giving us the magic of realism and the realism within magic. I think it's
Yes.
great. I think it's really
Yes.
fabulous. What's next? What are you going to do? This is out. You want people to read it. You want people to hear about it. What do you want happening with it?
Well, I this is a standalone novel. It I don't like calling the next book a sequel, but we're taking the same characters. This Ron's gonna have his story. Okay. I figured he's the lovable guy. Let's throw him into scenarios that will absolutely blow his mind and go like, wait, what the? Why am I being thrown into this? So the next book is a two-part book. So there are two books. The first one is much less of a romance. What it does is two people, Ron finding out that he's got a long lost sister in his line, his Scottish line, but she's in the Philippines. And he's going like, how did this happen? And her life's in danger. So what I've done here is that Ron's got to rescue the sister. They have to find each other so that the magic that they both possessed can be preserved as it has been throughout their lineage. So it's Ron trying to understand, how am I connected from something so implausible? And so it's called Legacy of the Gift. It's, what I wanted to do was Ron trying to discover, how did he come by with this gift? Where did it start? And why was it passed down to me? And who's had it in the past? So I really leaned into that and brought that out. And I had a lot of fun with it because the story arc goes around the world. We're talking Scotland to the Netherlands, from the Netherlands to South America, Brazil, from Brazil to the Philippines. But the other arc to that is the Netherlands, Scotland, the Netherlands, and then from the Netherlands, that ancestor sails, gets on a merchant ship bound for the Far East. And if you recall, that was the time when spice trade was the big thing.
Yep.
So that's how that ancestor ends up in the Far East.
You're sort of pulling an Anne Rice on us, because as much as the first book, Interview with a Vampire, was about one character, everybody really gravitated toward another, and suddenly the vampire Lestat is
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You're basically saying, okay, here's Raine's story, and she's with Ron, but now here's Ron's story.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
great.
Exactly. And same character voice, that slightly awkward, even though he's matured. He's now a father. He's got 2 daughters, and it's in like the Fae have suddenly thrust him into this mission, saying, listen, you've got a sister, her life's in danger. She's all the way in the Far East, and everything is a mystery to him at that time. And so, of course, he's just like, well, I can't say no, because they said this is my fate. But I have to figure out, how am I going to, they're not telling me, because there's a passage there where, when he's being given this vision, he's going like, can't I just send her a plane ticket and have her leave the country and come here, and he's going like, well, what's with all the, and this is where I really leaned into the magic, because my brother-in-law, who was, I think, my biggest critic, he literally said, no, you don't want me to review it on Amazon, because I'm not even going to give you 1 star. That's how critical he was. But see, I didn't take that personally. I said like, well, wait, tell me, what was it? It just, this is just not his book. I knew it wasn't his book. Okay, but I said, well, what is it? And he said, it has a lot of potential. I really wanted to know more about the Fae and all that magic. And so I leaned in the title is Goddess of a Thousand Eyes. I leaned into that, the magic, a whole lot more, whole lot more. So it's no longer just magical realism, but at the same time, I wanted to bring awareness of my country, where I'm from, originally from the Philippines, and the culture there, and not just the culture of Filipinos from Manila, but Filipinos, the indigenous tribes who are whose lives, their culture is threatened as we speak. They suffer from displacement, discrimination, and there's the threat that they will eventually disappear. So I was trying at the same time, I'm bringing that forward and I'm playing with a lot of Philippine mythology. So it's going to be epic in that regard, but I'm having a lot of fun writing it.
It's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. You're giving us other characters. You're giving us history. You're giving us the entire world. And uh, ironically, your brother-in-law gave you the best kind of compliment. Okay, I don't care about these guys here, but this really attracted me. So your book has
Yes.
something for everyone. You don't need the romance. You want the magic. Vice versa. There's so much in there. There's so many missions, so many messages in there. This is required reading. This is simply required reading. That's
Yes, and I'm at that point right now where I have the Ron and his college bros in the Philippines trying to scale the mountain jungle, which is like the Amazon, so they can find his sister. Of course, and his friends are saying, like, so you're not really sure how you're related, but we're all in this with you. You've dragged us out here. This had better be good.
I see a movie happening here
I'm
uh,
hoping.
very easily. Wow.
Very
Okay.
cinematic. Very cinematic.
This is this is a tempting novel that you have now, and there's so much more. So people need to read it now. Where can they get it? Someone listens to this and they say, "I get that book." Where do they go?
You're talking about the first book?
The first book, yes, please.
Yeah. It's on Amazon, and the title is Bound by Destiny. But I think you will find it a lot quicker if you enter my name in the search bar, because it's one of a kind. So it's R period MB period Pearson. Now you realize I don't use my first name Rebecca Pearson, because then that search is just going to bring up
Oh, sure.
Mandy Moore and This Is Us. So I said, like, let's use our initials. Then for sure it will come up. Even if you just Google RMB Pearson, I'll
Well,
come
it
up.
worked beautifully for J.K. Rowling. It worked beautifully for J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
Uh, they're all out there, so I think you're in good company again. Okay, so we put in your name, we go to Amazon, we get this book. That's wonderful. Okay, I'm looking forward. Thank you so much for my copy. I can't wait to sit down and read it. Now I'm extra interested in this. Got to sign off, but I wanted to say thank you. This is marvelous. I had no idea the richness of this. Even when we spoke, I thought, wow. I thought to myself, wow, this is going in new directions. This is very powerful. I was underestimating. This is really out there. This is really something people need to pay attention. And if you're a reader, a genuine reader of novels, this is the exact thing for them. That's great. That's great. Rebecca,
Thank you.
thank you so much. It's a pleasure
Oh, my
speaking with you.
pleasure. My
And
pleasure.
I look forward to being on this journey with you in terms of seeing this book rise. And I'll give my feedback as to who to play Raine and Ron in the movie.
Yes. And it's rmbpearsonbooks.com. Easy enough to remember. It'll give you a lot more information and a sneak peek into the next book.
Excellent. R period MB period
Now,
Pearson.
just in on the web, it's just
No
rmbpearsonbooks.com.
periods. RMB. Okay,
Well,
that's
it's yeah, it's because it's on the web. It's on
sure.
the URL. It's just RMB Pearson
Easy to remember.
Books.
Easier
Yeah,
to remember.
right.
Excellent. Rebecca, all the best to you with this. Can't
Thank
wait
you.
for the second one. And 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 I'm going to be talking about the cover on social media because I saw the cover and it's gorgeous. The use of color, the excellent artwork, it's great. This ain't a Harlequin romance. This is the champagne of such things.
Thank you.
so much.